We are indeed ready. Great cast on the Digital and long series, and I'm joined by the man in the mid lane. Caps, you're the player of the series, man. That was a crazy, crazy one. How do you feel after all that's said and done?
I think after game one, I was ready to just take the next game, 20 minutes, and then go home. But then I think it was when they stole Nash or something that I realized that, oh, this is gonna be a long night.
Yeah. There's a lot to unpack here, and the Kale game one, you managed to make some pretty big plays, but I'll come back to that in a minute. Overall, it was so many crazy trades back and forth. How did you keep your head in a lot of this like ridiculous action that kept going on?
So game one, I was just pushing bot, so I don't know, there wasn't that much going on, I think. At least not for me. Maybe my teammates were doing a lot of action, I'm not sure. But second game, yeah, it was a crazy game, and it shouldn't have been that crazy. We should have been able to close it out somewhat early, but I think a few mistakes from us and just a general bad idea of how we would close out the game made the game go full EU Clown Fiesta.
Well, it does happen every now and again. Can you talk to me a little bit about how the comms were when you guys were trying to make some of these plays that ended up backfiring in game two?
I think we were pretty down after the plays. Some were like, oh, it's fine, we can try again, or we'll get them next time or something, but the rest were just sitting like, completely down.
Well, you managed to resist the mental boom, at least for game three, and close it out. So 2-1 on the series, maybe not what you would have exactly hoped for, but a win's important.
Yeah.
How big is it for you to have this win to keep your playoff hopes alive?
I mean, last week we were aiming for playoffs, and we were just like preparing ourselves for playoffs. But now we actually have to start preparing for the teams we face, because Rocket out of the blue just started winning everything, and they won against us as well. So beforehand, we would just be like, we beat the lower tier teams, and then we're fine. But because of the Rocket loss, we actually have to start focusing on winning against Giants here, and the win against Misfits or G2 next week.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be said for that. Obviously, it's a complicated playoff scenario. Like right now, you guys can't necessarily secure it up with a win, but you can get yourself in a much better position if you manage to do it. Still, Misfits and G2, how are you feeling? How are you going to attack those two games coming up next week?
I'm not sure how we will do it yet. We will probably need to find some interesting ideas, because I don't know if we can manage to improve enough to become better than at least G2 right now. But I mean, you can always cheese and hope for the best.
Yeah, you can at least get one game off that. Let me go back to some interesting stuff, because your Kale pick in game one was honestly so out of the blue, and it just completely shredded down the base of Giants. I remember one point you were just 1v1ing Knight and then took the inhibitor and backed off. I mean, where did that pick come from?
So someone told me, like someone PM'd me and said like, Kale's OP. And I tried solo queue, and I was just like AFK pushing some lane and won the game. And then I was like, is it actually viable in competitive? I was like, maybe I can survive lane against Vladimir and with Grave jungle as well. And I survived lane, so I could just end the game.
All right, so does that happen often? Do people just message you stuff that they say is OP and you can just try it out and it works?
I mean, I'm playing like tons of crazy things in solo queue, just trying out every pick pretty much, so that I always know like, so I'm ready for a new meta, or I'm ready for some secret picks.
Oh, wow, so we might see more of that. All right, that's super cool, looking forward to it. But you know, you're gonna have one more thing here for you, because Caps, even if you guys don't beat G2 or Misfits, still have a much better chance if Rocket loses on. Are you gonna be watching that game and cheering for G2?
I mean, we're already watching the Misfits game and cheering for Rocket, but it's just kind of sad, right? Because G2 is on a winning streak, and Rocket came out of nowhere, and you kind of want to root for them. But then again, they are stealing our spots, so it's like, I think the best scenario would be where they beat G2 and we beat Misfits and G2.
There you go. So maybe we can hope for that one to happen. Yes. Congratulations on your win, Caps.
Thanks.
Oh boy, okay, we're going to send it off to Dracos and crew for the post-game lobby.
Welcome everyone to the post-game lobby. I'm joined by James Stress O'Leary, Martin Official, and of course Fevin's mid laner.
Fevin's mid laner.
Strong start. It's been a long day, gentlemen, so let's just jump right into it. H2K's mid laner, Fevin, thank you. You've been here all day. I have no excuses at this point, but I want to start by looking back on kind of some of the series we saw this week that were pretty unexpected, I think. And the first one, it feels like it has to be Fnatic versus Giants. This one was way more back and forth than I think we expected as a desk. And Officio, as the man casting it, I want to get some of your thoughts in summary.
Very interesting, very funny, very fast-paced. I definitely have to say, don't think it's gonna win awards for like insane, crisp, clean gameplay. I do think game 1 from Fnatic though with the kill was super cool and like really well executed. I actually think game 3 as well. Seems like whenever they play like these like full-on skirmish split push, the enemy team was, in this case Giants, didn't really know how to respond to it.
Exactly, and I think when they're playing against a better team, if they get into playoffs, like I don't think this playstyle will work, but against teams like Giants, they kind of floundered, and it took like 40 minutes for Giants finally to win game 2. Like, a lot of crazy stuff happened in this series.
Overall, really crazy to see. Fevin, we're getting closer and closer to playoffs. Fnatic haven't quite locked it yet. We'll hit on that more later, but is this Fnatic lineup a team that you're going to be nervous to play against? How are you feeling about their strength overall?
Nah, not really. I think they're fine right now. They have like good early game, and they have. I think that's it basically. Like they know how to snowball, but then also they don't know how to close out games. And their play around Baron is pretty weak, and they just don't seem to be on the same page. And I think we're a better team for sure. Like even in scrims, we don't have like any trouble against them. And even when we're tanking a goal behind, we still come back sometimes. So I don't think they can win against us.
It feels like their playstyle is like, okay, can we get kills? Yes, okay, we win. Okay, we can't get kills. Let's try pushing in the side lane. If that doesn't work, they didn't really have too many options available past that. It seems like they're very formulaic, right?
I mean, we didn't see that much from them. Like we saw the split pushing in the game 1 and game 2, and then this game they just snowball, and you don't really see much either. Like you just see people getting killed, and it's not like it's not like when you watch you don't see like a squad working together. I feel like moving together. Like usually Martin is alone, Reckless is alone on the side lane pushing, you know, and it feels like they're doing their own thing, and doesn't look that great as a team right now.
Yeah, that was actually our story going into especially the third game, where Reckless was just sitting on stage, like he was just practicing, getting ready for the next game instead of, you know, grooving with the team, discussing the strategy or whatever. It was like, okay, now Caps wants to be the carry. Now Reckless wants to be the carry. Now, okay, Broxer, he wants to also be on a skirmish. Like, each pick was like on its own able to create some sort of chaos and actually like force a fight or force like a 1v1. And then you don't win as 5. I think you won as 2 or 3. Because it was like a lot of Source and Reckless together. Being like, yay, someone is coming to the side lane to take this wave. We're going to kill them. And they used that over and over. And Caps would like solo kill people. So a lot of individual performances, which obviously is not how you become the champions. But I think if you're Fnatic right now, you just want to make playoffs. Like, that is the only thing you care about.
Let's then shift our attention over to another series that happened on Friday. Roccat versus Misfits. We saw a lot more team play coming in there. Roccat, very clean games overall, and I think this was a huge surprise.
Can you believe it? Roccat turning their season completely around with a win over the number 2 team in the group. Misfits had been looking so clean, apart from against teams like H2K and G2, so you would think they would be heavily favored against Roccat, but so clean was the games out of Roccat. Like, Faxi finally again showing up, but on different picks. Like, Gragas comes out for him. We saw a lot of solid play out of Roccat in game 1, and Deficio, you're singing Game 2's praises all the way this week.
Loved it. I think Game 2 was super cool. Fun to see Casterden back in the meta as well. Classic European pick. I don't even think it's that strong, especially because you need so much time before you actually become super useful. But I think they played super well as a team in the 1-3-1, and I'm happy when you see like a lot of progression, especially from a team that was down and out.
Yeah.
Like, they were basically down and out.
Yeah,
and then they came
100%.
back in after beating Origin. I just wonder, Febivin, did our bottom teams get better towards the end, or did our top teams slow down?
I think the top teams just didn't improve that much, and the bottom teams like started playing full scaling comps. And we know already that like besides G2, every team is really bad at closing out games. So everyone is playing for late game, and just I don't know, people throw and I don't know, Misfits was really ahead. Like in game 1, I only saw the solo kill mid, and then I didn't watch the game anymore. But I mean, you should win after this, and I think I don't know, Misfit doesn't look that strong right now, I feel like.
Well, let's take a chance then to kind of look at the league as a whole. We are now approaching our final week of the regular split. We have a few teams locked into both playoffs and promotions. Bring up that graphic now to kind of take a look at how this is rolling down. Of course, G2 has locked first place seed. We're now 2 teams locked in the promotion tournament as well. You kind of brought up Misfits as a team that may be struggling. Do you expect to see any huge shifts in the standings in the coming week, Febivin?
No, I think Group A will be the same. Misfits second, and then Fnatic or Roccat third. I don't know what is the problem with Misfits, but they just seem to be stuck with playing one style. Like I feel like they group a lot and they don't really know how to play on 3 lanes properly. At least when we played against them and we analyze them, they always look for the fights. They always look to group, like their top laner groups all the time. Their mid laner usually slow pushes waves instead of like grouping. I mean, instead of like pushing all the way and like dragging attention. So I think they're good as 5, but they're just not playing well enough. I don't know.
They have looked super passive when they didn't have a clear way to start a fight. Like exactly what he's mentioning, like when they're in trying to group with like a Rumble comp, you would think, okay, now either you group around like a Dragon or Baron, they come in, you use Rumble ulti, it's great, you know, or you use it to like maybe force people off a tower or something like that. We don't really see it. So I feel like ever since they played you guys in G2, it's been very, very slow. They used to be really good early game and get like these leads with, especially Sin. Again, I keep saying it for Kakao, but like he's been forcing so many plays on it, and they've not been able to do it at all. Funny enough, also ever since Alfari started playing less tanks, and he went into a period where he played a lot of pure play push, and it worked pretty well. Now he's playing like Rumble quite a bit, and I don't think Misfits are playing too well with it.
Well, let's take a look at the matches that are coming up on the table in the coming week to see what the strength of schedule looks like for Misfits, because once again, one of their opponents coming up will be Fnatic, right? And we're gonna see them in the final week, final match of the week, could be a deciding match for that playoff seed, but these weaknesses, you guys are listing them off, like we've seen them, like they're obvious to everyone who's watching. Do you think that Fnatic can exploit some of these weaknesses when it comes down to it?
I think the fact that Rocket were able to handily take out Misfits means I think it's a lot less certain. I think you asked me last week, I say Misfits easily deals with Fnatic, easily deals with Giants, but I mean, I still think that way. They should be able to win. Key thing though, in Group A, Fnatic will lock in a playoff spot if they win versus G2 or Misfits. So Misfits kind of control that destiny as well. There's a lot going on in Group A in next week's games.
Yeah, coming in very, very close on the game differential. Outside of this Misfits versus Fnatic, are you guys feeling confident, Febiven, coming in your matchup against Splyce for the coming week?
Yeah, we have scrimmed them quite a bit actually. I mean, scrims doesn't mean much, but like if you win most of your games in scrims, it gives you a pretty good feeling. I mean, like we've been doing really good in scrims, but our closing out is still like bad. Like last week, I don't know, just after IM, we still have the same mistakes. Like we're trying to work on them, like closing out stuff. I feel like our early game is really strong, but just translating it into a win without like getting too cocky or like, you know, it's still shaky. But I think we probably will beat us up a bit for this for today. And
He told us about that. Apparently he actually hit you.
I hope he will do it because it will make me like, I'm really aware of our mistakes and my own mistakes. So if we fix this stuff, I think we will be good for playoffs and for next week.
All right, well, the standings are, of course, very close in Group B right now to find that first, second, third seed, depending how things unfold. But if you're watching us at the client, be sure to hit up the post-game lobby at youtube.com/LLOesports as we discuss what could be in store as we head towards the Spring Split Finals in Hamburg. All right, so I'm actually not going to quite talk about the pivot. We're going to pivot. We're going to pivot a little bit because it's been a really interesting week. And with 2 teams now locked in the promotion tournament, I want to shift to that side. We can talk about the top in a little bit, but for now, I want to talk about the bottom because we have 2 teams locked in. It's Giants, it's Origin, and Misfits Academy. Now, Stret, you bore witness to what we can safely call a colossal upset. So
Yeah.
do you want to run us through that one?
This was the biggest surprise. Everybody had pinned Schalke as walking their spot, not only into the promotion tournament, but through Origin into the LCS. And this is something that the Schalke FC side of Schalke as an organization will understand, I think, more than most esports organizations. If you don't show up in-game on the day, you don't deserve the win. You can go 10-0 on the split, but if you don't win the best of 5 that gets you there, you don't deserve it. And unfortunately, Schalke drafted greedily, played greedily, and could not compete with Misfits Academy, who had clearly prepared for this series.
Did you know that the man to my left, Febiven, went to the promotion tournament twice, got 3-0'd both times after being considered the strongest challenger team by many. And he had to get into LCS by being picked up by Fnatic instead.
Wow.
No, actually, no, you made it in with the expansion tournament.
Yes.
Yes, you made it in. You deserve it. You're in there.
All right, give us your thoughts, Febiven. As apparently you've been here multiple times. What's it like playing the promotion tournament? How do you feel like it compares coming in from Challenger to LCS?
Okay, so when we were like Cloud9 Eclipse, we were all like, I mean, for myself at least, I was like 18 years old, you know, most cocky kid like I was ever been in my career, and I was so confident that we would win, you know, and even the whole team was like, oh, we're just gonna beat this guy out. This guy is so bad, you know. And then when we played, they were like playing full solo queue, and they were actually so much better as a team. Like against, who was it again? It was against Young Buck's team.
Oh, it was Wolves, wasn't it?
Yeah, Copenhagen Wolves. Yeah, I
those
think.
Ari games.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to.
No, I mean, it's fine. But yeah, and I mean, just getting into LCS is so much better. Like you just grow so much as a player, and also from those losses, like in Challenger, it has to happen, and you can't be cocky like we were, and I think that was the biggest problem for me at least.
From playing a promotion tournament myself a few times
Oh my God!
in my great career, you know, where I was down there visiting a few times, the feeling you have when you sit on stage and you're playing for a job is like, it's such a different feeling. Like, it's not even, you're not nervous specifically, you're just kind of like, you can't really find the right mindset. And then when you lose the first game especially, it just sucks because you're like, damn it, we worked so hard to get here and now we're gonna get, you know, kicked out. And it's awful, man. So I can just imagine Schalke in game one coming in. We saw the tweets, you know, they were happy, they were ready, they were trash talking and everything. And I respect that part. That's fine to do before the game. But then when you lose game one, you're just like, damn. We're actually playing like solo queue, and they're playing like a team. This is not good, and it just went downhill.
You speak about the nerves, like a player that just didn't seem phased. First time we've seen him on stage, Pride Stalker comes out and demolishes Lulax
Dutch
in
player.
2 games.
Dutch talent.
Rengar one trick.
Well, he played
Yes.
Rengar and he played Kha'Zix, and like this is the first time this young players stepped on stage, and he just goes, "Okay, I'll just like go 8-0 on Kha'Zix in a game," and like Lulax just looked lost. This is a guy that's like been to Worlds. This is a guy that just crushed everybody in Challenger, and it just did not line up for
I
him.
feel so bad. I mean, literally Twitter for hours
Yeah.
after that series, passing God. Like it was just constant. You can't. That's brutal. Like he's already lost the series. You can't kick him when he's down.
And it's less about kicking him when he's down, but looking at like Misfits Academy prepared for that series. Pride Stalker thrived under the pressure, and Schalke, the organization, the players are going to have to come back in the summer and try and reset off this. But we've got one hell of a series coming tomorrow. Fnatic Academy versus PSG. Yellow Star, the old guard of Fnatic, versus Fnatic Academy. Everything. Wow, this is like, you couldn't have written this.
Also,
PSG.
I feel like the big thing we have to remember here is they don't have Schalke, the 10-0 team. I don't feel like either of these teams is going to be cocky coming into this series, right? Both of these guys kind of struggled when all the teams outside of Schalke felt like they kind of struggled into the playoffs, right? It was a very close playoff.
They tripped into the playoffs.
Well, tripped. I feel like there was some effort there, Martin. I don't think anyone tripped into the playoffs.
I feel like Schalke like really expected to win, and then Misfits were like, oh, we're not expecting anything. We're just gonna maybe get 3-0. We're gonna win or we're gonna lose. You know, like I don't think they had that much expectations, and then Schalke was like, yeah, we're really gonna win, and maybe it hit them like after their first game. I'm not sure, but it can happen, and I think it might have been the case.
I think the interesting thing is PSG are on the upswing after losing to Schalke and Fnatic Academy when Fnatic Academy had Broxer in week 1. PSG have gone back-to-back. 5 out of the last 6 games have been wins for them.
White Knight.
Yeah, White Knight came in, instantly created noise for PSG. Fnatic Academy have been playing musical chairs. Finally, they've got Kikis, amazing. You know, they've got Rales, Niski, and Klai. And, like, that lineup has been very solid when we've seen it as one unit, but it's only been in the last 2 weeks that Amazing has come into the lineup. So there's so much on the line. And both of these lineups, I think you could argue a case for how they should win this easily.
I feel like we never know.
Yeah.
Every
No,
challenger,
you never
every
know.
challenger playoffs, we're like, this team's the best. They're gonna crush everybody, and sometimes it happens.
People said it last split about Misfits.
and they
They're like, they're gonna
struggled.
destroy
They
everyone. Like, no,
struggled.
no,
They
no, no.
barely made it in.
Millennium, the split before, same happened. Like,
Oh yeah. It crashed slightly before though, but
Yeah.
still, like, it went downhill pretty fast. I guess we have to go back to Origin when they were challenger team. I was like, okay, these guys. No, actually, they auto qualified.
Yeah.
Because back in the days, you didn't have to play promotion tournaments. They didn't even need to play it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, of course, you can find that matchup tomorrow at 4 p.m. Central European Summertime as we go through our own little daylight. Is it still called daylight savings here?
I don't know.
I don't know.
We're shifting. I've been informed that the clocks are shifting for some reason. I don't
Next
understand
week,
how it
yes.
works. Got it.
An hour forward.
Out. 4 p.m. tomorrow
Backward. Forward.
in Berlin time. You can translate that yourself depending on where you're living. But now I want to look something a little bit closer. LCS. We've seen a lot of. I mean, it's post-game. We've seen a lot of weird shit this week. Let's be honest.
Whoa!
Kassadin,
Damn!
I'm letting loose. We've seen the Kassadin. We've seen a Blitzcrank. I saw a Kale today. A Swain top. Is this 7.5 or are people just having fun, experimenting? Why are we seeing so many odd picks? Fevin, I want to go to you. You obviously are scrimming a ton as a team. What's the deal? Why are there so many oddball picks coming out?
I mean, every patch, like, champs get nerfed, and you just try stuff out. Like, I think right now the game is kind of getting balanced a bit. Like, there's still OP champs, but I think that also, like, just having surprising picks can really help you to get those wins if you really need them. Like, for example, Fnatic, they really need to win, and I think picking a Kale or something, or like, even for our series today, Vitality, they pick the trash. I mean, it's kind of normal, but then the trash gets banned and they instantly go to Blitzcrank. So it shows that they really want to hook people and kill them and then just try to snowball, you know. And I think for some teams right now, it's just needed to have those picks. Like even the Swain top, I think it's fine against Camille. I don't know how it works, but yeah, I mean, if you can get a random solo kill or something, it can really snowball.
Yeah, and that's the kind of playstyle that as you're talking about is allowed with there being less like S-tier OP picks. You can pick a containing matchup like Swain into Camille. We saw it a couple of weeks back in Challenger. Like we were talking earlier on the desk about the Kale, pushes in the Vladimir. I'm glad to see that there is room for picks that have very specific niches in response to a pick, that you're not just like, oh, they've locked Syndra, great, we lost the lane. Like, that's everything done. I'm glad there is room for that.
I mean, it seems to be the balance idea from the right team in Central, obviously, with like, instead of buffing a lot of things, you nerf what is super strong, because then you hope to have like an open field where, take a Vladimir, he's a strong pick, he's a good pick. He's not an, like, oh my God, we have to ban him every game. There's a lot of picks you can play against him. He has weaknesses in the early game with like a wave and so on that you can, pick things like Kale around. That's what Caps said. He was like, maybe I can survive lane in this matchup and get 2 items and then I'm going to win the game. So in that sense, it opens up for a lot of viable picks. There's always the problem where a lot of pro players are afraid of trying certain things, or maybe they need to have some success in solo queue before they bring it into scrim. But the fact that it is a possibility is good. Also because Vitality didn't really play for a whole lot, so there was no pressure. They could go for Blitzcrank if they wanted to. If they lost, no one would blame them. They'd be like, yeah, you lost to H2K, happens.
Definitely fair. They also found a win against HK. It was very close. It was uncomfortably close.
Almost lost the last game.
Yeah, definitely a little close for comfort there for all the H2K fans. Now, something that we've kind of been talking about behind the scenes all day today is blue side versus red side. And I want to touch on this a little bit because 7.5, 7.6, they're very similar patches. From talking to teams, it doesn't seem like there's a ton of changes. So looking at this coming into playoffs, do you feel like blue side or red side is going to be stronger in pick spans? Because we've seen it go back and forth, and it's been very polarizing, it feels like.
There's a lot of shifts because the first few weeks, almost every team picked blue side whenever they could. Because it was like you had to ban Camille, Rengar, LeBlanc on red side. That was it. There was no other bans. Then in the middle of the split, there were a few nerfs, and people were starting to leave some of the OPs open and force the blue side to ban away some of the OPs, and you could then suddenly get more power on red side, and we saw more teams pick red side. Whereas we saw Unicorns a lot very early, give like Rengar, and then pick the Iron against it. So that shifted definitely. I feel like now when you don't have to ban like things like Camille, Rengar, LeBlanc anymore, it gives a lot of power to red side because you have last pick in the last phase, you have first pick in the last phase, you have first ban in the last phase. Like, you have a lot of options right there to dictate the draft, which is really strong. But I can definitely see merit in both sides.
So I'm curious, Fevin, you've obviously just played today. What was your feeling on the draft? Do you feel like you had more control coming in on the red side? Would you prefer to be on blue side more frequently? What are your impressions from today's games and, of course, across the split as well?
I think for me, like personally, for mid, it's like really hard to blind pick a champ on blue side because, I mean, today they went Orianna, so I cannot like blind pick Orianna, which is like the strongest mid. So I fall back to Syndra, obviously. But there's always like 1, 2, 3 champs against Syndra. And I don't know, it's just not much you can do. Like, you can ban the best champs against it, but then there's something else they can pick. And I think just having red side is so good because if you have like a good top laner, a good mid laner who will place a lot of champs, there's always a good red side situational pick, which you can't really ban because you have 5 bans. It's a lot, but it's still not enough. Like, yeah.
Yeah, just the pool is way too far open.
Yeah, I desperately was trying to come up and build a solid argument about why I was against some of the statistics that came out this week about the first week of play on 7.5, where it was a 61% win rate for blue side, and then it fell to 44. I've kind of finalized where I stand on it. Like, a lot of teams on blue side in the first week were drafting blind pickable, like 80 carries like Ezreal, and then a mid laner like Orianna, which is blind pickable but doesn't win a whole lot of matchups and gives a lot of pace over to the opponents. So when you end up getting a last pick for one winning matchup, and if you can win another lane, like this Ezreal, this Orianna need a lot of time, and that's what we saw a lot of teams do on blue side. I don't think it's inherently going to stay that way. When we've had another week of play now, we've seen these funny counters coming in for a lot of the champions and a lot of pacing come back over. But I certainly think that, like, drafting priorities, that's what messed up Schalke in their series on 7.5. They weren't prepared to pick winning lanes somehow on blue side. It's very difficult with the pacing that red side gets, getting that first pick in phase 2.
Well,
Yeah.
I kind of want the thing I want to touch on here is that we talk about wave pressure so much over the course of the split, how crucial it is to kind of have pushing lanes to set yourself up for success in the early game. When is it okay to take picks like Ezreal that maybe aren't always going to just have the push guaranteed? Like, when can you pick an Orianna who isn't always going to win lane? When can you pick when can you sack a lane in the early game, right? To ensure late game dominance or mid game dominance?
Well, I think you can pick you can pick. For example, for mid, I don't think it's really good to pick like a losing matchup because it means a lot to the game, means that the enemy can always push and move with the jungler, and also creates pressure for the side lanes. So I know for Ezreal, I'm not really a big fan of Ezreal, but if you have already a strong jungler, strong mid, which can relate pressure to that lane, then it's good. And when you can eventually like put the Ezreal mid, and you can always wave clear. But like I think Orianna right now, it doesn't really have counter, so it's always good to blind pick. She has like, I don't know, maybe Victor is fine against Orianna, but still Orianna has the push and the gank setup. So I think once those blind pickable champs get banned away by red side, there's a lot more counter picks open, and it makes the draft hard and the game as well.
Always has to be a trade-off.
Yeah.
It becomes like, oh, we sack in one lane, well, then you need to win in another lane somewhere. You can't just have, like, I don't remember the last time I've seen a European team win a game with 3 losing lanes. Like, it almost never happens. I saw SKT do it against KT, where KT decided to run headfirst into a wall.
We've had 1 or 2 games with 2 losing lanes. We saw,
Yeah.
I mean, we saw you guys fall prey to the Victor Ezreal mid game coming in from Unicorns Love once on the side of H2K.
Oh,
but
yeah. I mean, they should have lost, but it's fine.
You say it's fine, but you don't look like it's fine.
No, it was not fine.
All right, well, let's take one more chance to look at the final week coming up of the regular split. This is a reminder that we're going to have 4 days of EU LCS coming your way. We've taken a look at the schedule once before. We'll look at it again. Some pretty big matchups coming up. We already talked about Splice versus H2K. Are you nervous at all about your matchup versus OG, Febvin? Very. You just shook your head. They can't see it, but I'm putting you on blast. You shook your head and said very.
the worst question ever.
I mean, you're expecting that whole answer anyway.
All right, well, kind of just as a final closeout moments, most matchups you're most excited for in the coming week, gentlemen?
Fnatic G2.
Fnatic G2?
Fnatic misfits for me.
There's only 2 Fnatic games, Stretch. You're going to have to pick a different one.
I'm not picking a Fnatic game. I can't believe I'm going to say this. Rocket G2 is legitimately intriguing.
Because if Rocket can win 1 game, it might actually give them playoffs.
Yeah, like that series, like if you're watching in the future and like Rocket have tanked, like there was a time where we felt like Rocket on a 5-series winning streak potentially could take a game. I don't think they take the series, but...
All right, well, thank you all very much for joining me. If you're watching us in the future, I don't know what to say to that. If you're watching us in the present, though, we'll have 4 days of games coming up next week, but it's time for us to log out for the night. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back on Thursday at 5 p.m. Central European Summertime as the EU LCS Spring Plat comes to its dramatic conclusion. Have a wonderful Saturday evening.
Do you guys have this feeling that sometimes you talk without using your brain? And remember yesterday you were like doing analysis and you're like,
We've got pushing up, and it's got to get a little bit low There's this guy Luis flashing forward and he hits it. First blood on the Unleashed power.
I have warrior now. I'm really OP. I'm really strong, like insanely strong.
Man, Joko, he was going fast right now, putting on those running shoes. But the question is, does he live through this? Because Joko's way too low. Kaboshard, he's got no Scarl, and Jankos cleans up in the top lane. A double kill for Jankos. He's looking to make it 3, maybe 4, maybe 5. He hops in for one more. That's a double kill for Nuclear, however, and that's gonna be the ace.
And he says that's the bottom line, because H2K said so. That's the game's done. 36.5 minutes in. Man, what a show we got.
Febiven does another Kaboshard.
Oh no, it's the Swain! Crowstorm! For a kill.
Shawnee trying to live, but he goes down. Kaboshard goes golden, and he goes right back in to try and clean up this fight. Febiven gets a big shutdown, but he's taken down himself as Che flashes away. It is a 2 for 3, but Baron secured by Vitality. Great game out of Vitality. Excellent. They roll the snowball all the way to the finish line, and who'd have thought it's stressed? We got game 3 as Vitality tie up the series.
Oh, Joko's still following, looking for another. That should be it. Level 6 to level 8 don't even matter, and no stun. Joko, though, no, he overstays. Honestly, been able to get a little bit more done on the Zyra pickup. Oh, there's an equalizer on Febiven and Shay. Let's see what they can get done here. Joko, they get a big shutdown. It's final tick of damage from Kaboshard, pulling Jankos, and Shay was burning down, and Jankos is gonna fall. H2K getting caught with their pants down. Joko managing to get people out of there, and that is going to be Odo going for a new charge on Nuke Duck. There's a big red carpet in the back, but H2K walked right over it, looking for a Shani, looking for steal back. Nuclear on a rampage, a double kill for him. Vitality melting.
Dragon's Rage kick as we go into base race vision here. Joko cannot do this alone. He has to settle for a ZZ Rod portal, and he has to settle for a loss as H2K, it looked grim, it looked dire, but they come back and close out the series.
Find them out, guy.
Okay, how tanky is Flaxish?
Not very tanky.
Not very tanky at all. Flashes over the wall, eats the culling, and runs into Jezus. And it's Reckless that secures the kill.
Soaz forced into fix.
but look at the Nexus! Get the count on the Nexus!
He's under pressure. Caps, he's taken down both. There's a teleport from Soaz.
Oh my god!
Fnatic, they win game number 1 with the backdoor kill.
Someone's gonna get hooked. Someone's gonna get hooked. Trench line onto EQ. The instant flash away, flash forward. The depth charge knocks EQ up in the air. Exhaust buys a few seconds, but not enough.
Soaz is locked up from the team. He gets taunted up. A full channel culling onto EQ. He's pulled. The hero playing obliterates EQ. Now Fnatic continue to push. This is the fight they were looking for. Spirit's Refuge buys some time, but not enough. Flaxish goes down.
Memento, they could try the combo. Throws out the Qs. 1,500 going in. It's stolen! Giants get the Baron! And Memento gets out alive!
Reckless has no minions! It's going low! Math Reckless is going low to Fisher!
Giants to push down the Nexus. Reckless had no minions.
Have Giants turn it around? Giants force a decided game 3!
Yeah, looking pretty good so far. Cool, calm, and collected. Caps look. Whoa! Back. The crowd erupts in Fnatic chants as the last Nexus turret goes down. A taunt onto Knight. The only member alive for a few seconds longer is Hiku. He's being dove underneath the fountain. Caps decides not to chase. The ace, the base, Fnatic are one step closer to the playoffs.